Hello and welcome back to the Squirrel Heed YouTube channel, and while we're still just in the midst of the international break, obviously the football's back at the weekend, I wanted to start doing something called Premier League in Review, and we're going to do it month by month. So this is Premier League in Review for the month of August, and basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the bottom three, the rest of the table up until the top six, and then we're going to look at the top six as well, and just see how they're doing, and just basically have a look at, you know, why are they possibly in trouble? Why are they doing well? Why are they maybe mid-table? And depending on who we're talking about, it could change month by month. But I think it could be a good one to do. It's only going to be on a month-on-month basis. So at the end of September, I will do, on just maybe the first couple of days in August, I will then probably do, it's not in August, sorry, October, going back in time a little bit there. I will do a review of the September month, and so on and so on. And it won't just necessarily just be the Premier League. Those that are involved in the Champions League and the Europa League as well, they will get covered and it will all be in here. I have no idea how long these videos will be. We'll see what the first one's like, and we'll move on from there. But I'm hoping to get quite a bit of detail in here, and we're going to kick things off straight away. Now, I'm going to go from the bottom three and work my way up. And the bottom three, as it stands right now, is West Ham United at the bottom, at the foot of the table, Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. None of them have any points, which is quite surprising in some respects. Let's look at West Ham. In my opinion, that West Ham signed some pretty damn good players, some proven Premier League players as well. Chicharito, proven goal scorer. You put him in the box, he will score you goals. Got Arnautovic, who is a proven guy in the Premier League and does have a bit of a hot head. Maybe not the best one, but he's got talent and he's definitely got ability when he applies himself. He had a bit of a run in the Stoke team, I think even 2 seasons ago that I remember, when they were starting to call him Zlatan Arnautovic. And maybe not everybody was calling him that, but it was one that was thrown out quite a lot here. And he has got potential to be very good. He's also got the potential to do what he did at West Ham in his first game there and get sent off, and he's out for 3 games. So he's probably a big miss for them. But what seems to be a big miss for West Ham in general is defence that can actually do stuff. And they just don't seem very competent doing that. Joe Hart's not going to show that up either. Yes, people are saying it's not his fault that he's for the goals conceded, but in my opinion, it doesn't matter. Joe Hart is on his way down, and he's not going to be coming back anytime soon. Crystal Palace, Frank de Boer took over, and he's a good caliber manager in some respects. But then you've also got to look at his Inter Milan spell as well and how he struggled there. It looks like he's got similar sort of struggles here at Crystal Palace, and it doesn't look like he's going to get a great deal of time to actually try and implement the style of play that he wants to do. He's wanting to come into the Premier League now and start it with the players that he had. And it's difficult because you've got players that were used to playing direct football and playing up to a big target man. And I've said this before, Benteke is one of the best target men in European football. Never mind that he's one of the best of them at doing it in the Premier League. So you take that away. He doesn't necessarily like having the ball to feet. He's got good feet, but he doesn't necessarily. That's not his preferred option. He wants to use his head, he wants to use his chest, and use those around him, because then he can hold the ball up, and that's where you got. He would hold the ball up, and he'd send Wilfried Zaha, or he'd send Andros Townsend on his way, or whoever was coming up in that midfield as well. Look, it's a missed opportunity, to be honest, with Frank de Boer if he's going to keep going this way, because it will end up like, it'll cost him his job. That's pretty much all that'll happen. No points on the board. They've got -6 goal difference. It's not looking great at all. It really isn't. Bournemouth are completely different in my opinion. Bournemouth have a very good style of play. They've got a very good manager. They just cannot pick up the wins at the moment. They had a tough game against Manchester City. And I think Manchester City were fortunate not to have drawn that game. I think they were very fortunate that the game went on as long as it did, up until the 99th, maybe even the 100th minute as well. Raheem Sterling scored in the 97th minute and he got sent off as well. In my opinion, it was unlucky, and that seems to be a bit of a trend with Bournemouth sometimes. They get unlucky. They really do get unlucky, and it is unfortunate in this case. I don't think that Bournemouth will stay in the relegation fight, but at the end of the day, if they don't start picking up results, especially against those around them as well, it's not going to look great for Bournemouth anytime soon. Now, we're going to move into the rest of the table, and there's going to be some, it's early on, there's only been 3 games played, so there's going to be some names, like teams that are going to be like, they're not going to be there at the end of the season, or you don't expect them to be there anyway. 17th is Brighton and Hove Albion. They've got a draw and 2 losses so far. They've just come up last season, so it's kind of, people are already saying that Brighton are going to be one of those that are going to be in the relegation fight, and at the moment I would say I would agree with that, but there's still so much of this season to go. There's 35 more games to play in the Premier League, so it's so difficult so difficult to try and predict right now what the table's going to look like at the end of the season. So I think, don't know how I didn't really look at how they've done in the transfer window, but I think they've brought in players, and they've obviously got a draw in there as well. They don't, they've got 1 point on the board. They are just literally above the relegation zone. They might be in and around that sort of area. They might have some similar sort of season when Bournemouth first came up into the Premier League, where they were just kind of like above the relegation zone and maybe build. I don't imagine that they will be in the... I've got other people in mind for who I think is going to be in the relegation zone come the end of the season, or at least, coming, even in a couple of weeks, who I think is going to be in the relegation zone and stuff like that. I don't think that they will be. I think they'll just be above it, but who knows? 16th place right now, we've got Arsenal, and Arsenal, they've got 1 win and they've got 2 losses. One of those losses was to Liverpool, 4-0. A lot of Arsenal fans asking and pleading for their, I think it's Stan Kroenke or Stan Kroenke, however you say his name, I'm not sure, who is like principal owner or principal shareholder, something like that, asking for him to leave. Really, really wanting him to leave. Apparently protests are going to be starting again. Arsene Wenger wanting him to go again because, to be honest with you, when you look at Arsenal and you look at what was promised to them at the end of the season last season, they finished 5th. They're in the Europa League. They didn't get Champions League for one of the first, I think it's one of, or if not the first time in Arsene Wenger's reign at Arsenal. And it's big. It's huge because apparently, I think another one, Ivan Gazidis had come out and said that this could be a catalyst for change. And to be honest with you, outside looking in, from my perspective, it doesn't look like a lot's changed. In fact, it looks like it's gotten a little bit worse. For the fact that they've been letting players go, they seem weak defensively, and they've let a defender go like Gabriel, who, while he might not be the best defender, he would certainly put in a tackle, he'd put in a fight, and he'd try his damn hardest, whether he was playing right back or he's playing in his natural position as centre back. It didn't make much sense that the fact that they've still got like Mertesacker at the club and he's retiring at the end of the season, and yet they're not playing him. Instead, they're playing a left back. Sometimes in defence as well, they've got left backs that are not getting played in their position. Instead, they're playing like Hector Bellerin at left back, and he's a right-based player, either at right wing back or right back. It didn't make a lot of sense, to be honest, and it looks like a lot of the same problems are still happening, and Arsenal fans are not happy with it. And they've lost to Stoke, they've lost to us, Liverpool. They got a victory at Leicester, but they scraped that as well. It was a 4-3 victory. I don't know what's going to come for Arsenal. A lot of people are saying that they might not even get 7th, and I'd be hard pushed to say I agree with that. I would expect them to get it maybe 6th or 5th. I'm not saying they'll get top 4, but I don't know. Surely they cannot be this far down the table for much longer. I mean, the transfer window's ended. They've still got Alexis Sanchez. They've still got Ozil. Whether that's a positive or not, people are saying he's going to be very upset for a whole year now. And look, it's difficult to look at from an outside perspective. We've got similar situation with Philippe Coutinho. Is he going to be happy or not? I don't know, but at the moment, it's not looking too great for Arsenal, I've got to be honest with you. 15th, we've got Leicester. Leicester, they're not going to start the season like they did a couple of seasons ago. And even if they did, look, it's kind of like this could be their sort of position that they're going to be in, 15th, around that sort of area. I'd fully expect, if Leicester finished like 10th and above, fine, that's totally, that's absolutely fine. They've got the potential to do that. This is still very early on. They've had some tough games, but I think that you've still got the talent levels of... You've got Vardy, obviously, who's... You know what you're going to get from him. He's going to run and he's going to try and score goals. And more often than not, he'll score goals. Sometimes he'll have off days where he won't. They've still managed to keep hold of Mahrez, who's going to be looking for a move in January, apparently. They've still got the very talented players. Let Danny Drinkwater go in the midfield, though, to Chelsea. What's going to happen to their midfield now? Because it's surely not going to have that steal that he gave. Like, even without Kante, he's still a very good midfielder. They're definitely going to miss that. Newcastle United had an abysmal transfer window, to be honest. They really did. And the one thing that we know from Rafa Benitez is that if you promise Benitez the world and you promise him that you're going to give him loads of funds and everything that we make money-wise is going to go toward the transfer window and you can bring in whoever you want. If you don't do that for Rafa Benitez, like Mike Ashley hasn't, he's going to come out and he will keep saying things like, I'm trying my best, which I have no doubt he is. He's pulled out a great performance against West Ham, and even though it was West Ham, it's a 3-0 victory and it was comprehensive. it was very good. I think that some of their new players actually got in on the act as well, assisting and scoring goals. So, I mean, that's positive for Benitez. He's actually trying to do the very best he can. But he can turn around and say, I'm doing the best I can because this is what I was given. I haven't been given the funds. I haven't been given this, that, and the other that I was promised. Mike Ashley tried to come out in an interview and say that, like, everything, you know, all the money that he has, it's tied up in shares and all this sort of business. And it's like, you don't do that to Benitez because he knows, he remembers everything. And he will come out and he will say it in public, whether you like it or not. That's something that Newcastle have got to deal with. One thing that Benitez has on his side, whatever happens, if he decides to walk out of that job or stay, the fans are on his side, and I think they understand what's going on. In terms of performance, if they need to do more of what they did at West Ham, they need to do a hell of a lot more of that if they're going to stand a chance of being out of the relegation zone. Unfortunately, not that Newcastle fans would really, really care about my opinion. I do think that Newcastle are going to be in and around that relegation zone for quite a lot of the season. I've got to be honest. I know that they're sitting in 14th right now, but it's 3 games played. More performances like the first 2 games of the season, they're going to be either in the relegation zone or just a little bit above it. Now we come on to Swansea, and Swansea have got literally the first team in the league in 13th place who have got 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. And Swansea, they brought in some pretty, they brought in Renato Sanchez on loan. Is huge. How the hell? Liverpool were linked with him, and how he's gone to Swansea. That's a hell of a coup by, is it Paul Clement? That's a massive one by Paul Clement to bring someone of that young, talented calibre that he's got, which is why he got his move. I think it was from Benfica to Bayern Munich in the first place. Didn't get really much of a shot, so he's gone out on loan to Swansea. No doubt that's got to be the links from Ancelotti to Paul Clement as well. But yeah, that's a great one from Swansea in my opinion, especially when you've lost Fernando Llorente, however you say his name, and Gylfi Sigurdsson to Everton as well. That's a really big one. They brought in someone who's a lot younger, he wants to play, he's not been getting game time, he's a very talented guy. Swansea, again, they're in 13th. It's kind of standard for Swansea at the moment. I don't think they've been, above what people would expect of them, but I don't think they've been below it either. I think it's kind of just middle ground at the moment. Everton are in 12th place at the moment. Lost Romelu Lukaku to Manchester United, obviously for a big fee in the summer. Brought back the other way is Wayne Rooney, who does look like a reinvigorated character. What he's looking, instead of splashing all of the cash on like one big player for that cash that they got from Romelu Lukaku, instead of splashing it all on one player, they spread it around the squad, and it looks quite decent, to be fair. It looks like they've, I think Jordan Pickford is a hell of a goalkeeper. He's a better goalkeeper, probably one of the better goalkeepers they've had for a long time. And in front of him in defence, I think they've still got Ashley Williams, who's, again, he's a commanding character. So I think in front of them, it looks positive. He's got youth players coming through, like Calvert-Lewin, like Holgate as well. Davies is the one that came through from last year and looked very, very good. And alongside all these other signings and stuff that he's got as well, it looks positive for Everton. I have to say that it does look very positive for Everton because it looks like they could do the business and maybe challenge for that top 6, which is maybe what they're missing out on as well. They're doing well in the Europa League as well. They're through into the round of 32, I think, is it? I'm not entirely sure. Round of 32 or group stage, whichever one it is, I can't remember. It's the Europa League. We were in it, and I tried to forget about it. But it's not looking too bad. I can't really say anything negative about Everton, to be honest. Stoke, in 11th place. I think it's going to be standard Stoke this year. I think looking at it right now, 3 games in, they've won 1, drawn 1, and lost 1. Obviously, that win that they got was against not Everton, it was against Arsenal, and Hesse scored a goal in that one as well, their loan signing there. So I think Hesse could be a good one. If you got Hesse, and then you've got Shaqiri as well on the other side, and you've got their other talented players, and then obviously you've got the options that they had against West Brom, where they brought back a draw. They've got Peter Crouch, who is completely different to any of their other players. And he's the tallest striker in the Premier League as well, 6'7". He will make a difference whether he plays a lot or he doesn't play a lot. And he does. He scored a goal. And it was a very, very poacher goal. It was just a little header onto the line. There was a defensive mistake or a goalkeeping mistake by West Brom. And he took advantage of it. And it's good to see because I think Peter Crouch is, 37? 36, 37, and he still can make a difference for Stoke. They've got different ways of playing. If things are going tits up for them and it's not coming off, they can go the long ball way, use Peter Crouch as one of the biggest. He's one of the best target men. Alongside the likes of Benteke and Andy Carroll when he's on form and fit for one. It looks good for Stoke. They could finish higher up the table. I'm not entirely sure. It's going to be so competitive this year, up and down the table. It's difficult to predict where people are going to finish. Now, in 10th position, we're coming into the top half of the table, is Burnley. And Burnley, they're doing well. You have to give credit to Sean Dyche. Every single season, he brings in players. He lets players go. So even like years gone by when they got relegated and they sold Danny Ings to Liverpool, who was their top goal scorer. He scored like 18 goals in the season they got relegated. Then he had like Andre Gray, and he's let him go to Watford, and he brings in Chris Wood from Leeds, and he just seems to be able to replace. He's like a lower in the league version of Southampton. That is literally the best way I can sum it up. They seem to be able to let players go and bring other players in that are good quality as well. They're doing pretty well. They are doing very well. I think their opening game of the season was a 3-2 victory over Chelsea, the champions. And it was comprehensive. They were 3-0 up at one point. And it looked like Chelsea were going to come back and fight and get the victory. But man, that was a hell of a performance by Burnley. And you just had to sit back and just be like, they've got potential to do that to anybody. They really do. Burnley beat us. Our second game away last season. Our second game in the season last year. They beat us 2-0. We had that great victory at the Emirates where we won 4-3 in what was dramatic fashion. And then we went away, had like 81% possession, and we lost it 2-0. It was ridiculous. I think he's a very underrated manager, Sean Dyche. And I think Burnley have got, they're looking pretty good. I don't think they've got really many concerns at the moment. Tottenham are in 9th. Tottenham are a team that I do think have concerns. Now, they did have a pretty good transfer window, but let's talk about their performances. They don't seem to have... I just don't think that they're clicking. Like, even at this point last year, I don't know what their points tally would have been, but to only have 4 points on the board and sitting in 9th at this position right now, with the calibre of players that they have, Eriksen, Dele Alli, Harry Kane, still can't score in August. But literally the next day, when he was playing for England, the day it hits September, and he scores a goal. Can't remember if he scored 2 goals. But he did. He scores goals. Just August is a curse for him. Tottenham at Wembley. Not looking great. It really isn't looking great. Team I spoke about just previously, Burnley. Chris Wood, late on in the game, very, very late on in the game, comes back, equalises. It's 1-1. It's just not happening for Tottenham right now, and that's a concern because they've got Champions League commitments as well. They have to be in Wembley all season, and it's going to be difficult if they keep performing like this. It's going to be a difficult season where people are... I can understand why people are predicting Tottenham to come out of the top 4 because of the performances they put in at Wembley. It's there for everyone to see. It's not rocket science that if they're not performing there last season, they're not doing it right now. Is that going to happen all season? It's too early to say, I'd say, but it's a concern I would be looking at if I was a Tottenham fan and if I was Tottenham in general. Moving straight on to Southampton, who have got 1 win and 2 draws so far in the Premier League, no losses, and they don't look too bad. They look solid as they always do. They haven't lost yet. And this is the thing, Southampton, they don't score a lot of goals, I think so. Goals for, they've only scored 2. Goals against. Sorry, no, goals for, they've scored 3 in total. They've had goals against is 2. So, I mean, they don't score a lot of goals. They don't concede a lot of goals either. And I do expect a solid season from Southampton. They're in 8th position right now. And to be honest, if they were 8th position at the end of the season, maybe even 7th, I don't think that would be a disservice to Southampton. I think that would be either, staying the same or a little bit of progress as well. And maybe they'll actually keep hold of the manager for next season. Now we're going to move straight on to Watford. And Watford have 1 win and 2 draws. One of those draws being a 3-3 against Liverpool, which was gutting because we were losing for, I think, twice. We were 1-0 down and then 2-1 down. Look, it's one of those. Watford are a dangerous team. They've got dangerous players and they've signed a dangerous striker in Andre Gray, who I don't believe is getting much of a shout at the moment, but I have absolutely no doubt that he will kick on into the team and he'll do very well for them as well. Watford will be looking to have a good start of the season like they always do, like before Christmas, and hoping that this year they can actually, continue it into the next half of the season, because that's normally what gets rid of their managers. They're under Marco Silva, who almost did a miracle with Hull. He did absolutely wonderful things with Hull, and they weren't able to be saved. But I've got no doubt that with maybe a little bit more quality in this team that is in the Watford team than was in the Hull team, I've got no doubt that he will do well with this team. Just don't do it again against Liverpool. It's gutting when it happens against Liverpool. Chelsea didn't start the season very well, losing to Burnley 3-2, but since then have beaten Tottenham, and I can't remember who their other opponents were. It was Everton. They beat them 2-0 as well. They look solid. They didn't do the most business in the transfer window. They let Nemanja Matic go to Man United, which is, we'll come on to that later. And they do look like they're getting straight back into what it was like under Conte last season. It's like when it took quite a lot of games for him to change his system last season, he hasn't had to change his system again this season, I don't think. It just looks like it's taken a lot of a shorter time for him to get back into the rhythm of like, okay, we're Chelsea, and now we are going to be, we're going to be fine. They brought in some young players. That Bakayoko, I think, is probably the most notable one as well. I do think that Chelsea will have a solid season. I think they'll be in the top 4. No idea who's going to win the title. I'm not even going to predict that today. No chance. But again, it's a solid start by Chelsea. One of the surprising ones in the top 6 is West Bromwich Albion, sitting on 7 points, 2 wins and 1 loss. West Brom are looking very, very good. There's just no way of denying that. And to sign Krychowiak, however you say that name, on loan from PSG, what a signing that could be, because he's a brilliant player, and I don't understand how many other players many other clubs, I should say, weren't looking at him to come into their team. It baffles me. And West Brom, again, just like Swansea with Renato Sanchez, West Brom have pulled off a bit of a coup here, and I think it could be a very good move for them, especially sitting in the hole, just in front of the defence. We know what Tony Pulis is like. He's difficult to play against anyway for any team. It's proven so far. They're unbeaten. They haven't been beaten. They've got 2 wins, 1 draw. It looks really good for West Brom. They're sitting 5th right now. I don't expect them to be there at the end of the season, but you never know. You absolutely never know with the Premier League. It's ridiculous. In 4th position, we've got Manchester City, who have got 2 wins and 1 loss as well. And they are scraping victories. I have to be honest. They've spent a lot of money on their defence. They haven't necessarily refreshed the attack, though, and like they do. When they're on fire, when they are on it, they play some of the best attacking football in the Premier League. They play so fluid. Their passing moves and everything, just how they can click is absolutely wonderful to see. But when they're not clicking, it's not that great to see. It's a little bit, you're meandering through, you're just getting through games barely. The one against Bournemouth, before the international break, is just testament to that one, where it was the 97th minute and they managed to get a winner. But up until then, Bournemouth were well in it, in my opinion. They were soaking up pressure and they could have broke at any time. They've got pace up front as well, and they almost did it against Man City. But man, I expect Man City to kick into gear, and they're going to have to with the Champions League group stages coming up as well. They're going to have to kick into gear pretty quick and maintain it as well. It's a high level to maintain. But yeah, a little bit average at the moment, but they've got quality in the team that will probably carry them through the rest of the season. 3rd is Huddersfield Town. Wow. They've had some great performances. They really have. I don't really know what else to say. They've surprised me. They genuinely have surprised me. And they deserve to be up there as well. They deserve to be in 3rd position. The teams that they beat, who I can't remember at the moment. I did look at them, but I've completely forgotten. And to get a draw as well, this early on, for a team coming up, they're doing the exact opposite of Brighton at the moment. They are absolutely smashing it, and they're doing really well. They could even be looking for a top half of the table finish if they can keep this consistency going. I don't know if they haven't got any goals against, so they haven't conceded yet, which is ridiculous. They've scored 4 goals in 3 games. I mean, yeah, that's all positive for Huddersfield. They really have surprised me in a good way. I like to see sometimes some of the teams coming up do well and challenge as well. It's really refreshing to see. Now we're into the top 2. Liverpool are second in the league at the moment. We have scored 8 goals and have conceded 3, which was the 3 goals that we conceded against Watford in the draw. 2 wins, 1 loss. Look, we've got a 3-3 against Watford, thrilling as hell. But oh my God, I could have done without that, to be honest with you. We got a 1-0 clean sheet against Crystal Palace, and then also we got a 4-0 victory against Arsenal, and that was key. Now, obviously, in between those games, we've had some Champions League playoffs against Hoffenheim, where we started to click really, really well. Started to play some really good attacking football. The only thing that concerns me is our defence, as it always does. With Liverpool fans, I think it will always concern us about our defence, especially seeing as we didn't strengthen that area. Apart from Andrew Robertson coming in at left back, didn't strengthen the centre back area. Now we're going to be relying on Lovren, Matip, Klavan, and Joe Gomez, and hoping that we can we can revolve those lot around throughout the season and hope that clicks, and just hope that we can have a Kevin Keegan season that he did at Newcastle and finish as high up the table as possible by outscoring the opponents. And if we don't, we'll just try and score a lot of goals. That's pretty much the game plan for Liverpool, I would say. It's looking positive, to be honest. Like, I would have took 7 points from 9. I really would have. Obviously 9 points from 9, but there's only one team that's done that, and I've got to come on to that right now. In first position right now, 3 games in, is Manchester United. 3 games in. They've scored 10 goals in 3 games, and they've conceded none. Don't get me wrong, the calibre of opponent they've come up against hasn't been of the highest order at all. Probably the highest one that they've come up against is Leicester, and they beat them 2-0. It took them a while to break them down, but they did. The thing with Jose Mourinho, it's like second season. People are saying, oh, it's his second season. He will win the title. And I'm not too sure about that. I think that Chelsea will be right up there. I've no doubt that Chelsea will be right up there. As well as Man City, maybe even Liverpool, maybe even Tottenham. Who knows? But right now, Jose Mourinho, second season, he went out and early on got his targets. He got his goal scorer. He got Lukaku. He already had the likes of Pogba, Mkhitaryan. He's got Rashford. He's got Martial. They've got strength and they've got depth, and their depth and their subs bench and everything like that is strong. So they are purpose built for the Premier League, the Champions League, and all other competitions this season. They're looking very good. They are looking very good in attack. They look solid. They've got a world-class goalkeeper, very, very good defence. It's difficult for me to say that because they're Man United, and I really don't want them to win the title. I just don't. That's just how it is, but I can't deny the fact that they are looking insane. They're looking very good. There's very few weak areas. No one's found one yet because they haven't scored any goals against Man United. They will come up against top teams. Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool, Man City. They will come up against them. It's how they nullify them. They managed to do it to us last season and get a 0-0 and I think a 1-1. They will do it against other teams as well. So it depends. They could be well in for the title race as well already. But that is the month of August. And September will be a bit longer, obviously, because there's a lot more cup competitions going on as well. But I hope you've enjoyed this one anyway. Just my thoughts on how August has gone so far for every team in the Premier League. It is a longer video. I do appreciate that. But I hope that you've enjoyed sticking around and watching it all. I hope you can leave some comments as well, depending on who your team is. Let me know in the comments below what you think. How do you think your team is doing, and how do you think they will do by the end of the season? Let me know in the comments below, if you please. If you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it. Subscribe if you're new around here. Thanks ever so much for watching, as always, and I'll catch you later.